Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. So in this video we are going to talk about a new tool which is in the market, which is related to test automation. We'll talk about Maestro. Maestro is a tool which is fairly new in the market. It's very different from your conventional test automation tools for mobiles, which rely a lot of coding to do so. So a couple of I think so 1 year back I heard about Maestro through one of my newsletter that I have, and then since then I have been trying to work on it for a long time but didn't get the chance. But recently I started working on it in a personal capacity. So I'll just walk you through what Maestro is, how Maestro actually works, and what are the pros and cons, and then we'll try to see if we can kind of build a small framework for mobile application, native application of course, for test automation. So let's begin. So to start off with Maestro, what we'll do is we'll first of all go to Maestro, open a browser and go to maestro.mobile.dev, or directly you can search Maestro mobile automation and it will give you this, right? This is the home page of Maestro. So Maestro is the simplest and most effective UI testing framework. I mean, most effective or not, this is very subjective term. We can always discuss on it. Simplest, I think so. It's very simple to work with Maestro. Although there are some nuances that you will have to know when you are working through with Maestro. Why Maestro? Right. So Maestro is built on top of learning from Appium, Espresso, UI Automate, XUI Test, allow you to define and test your flows. So basically what happens is, flows are nothing, I think so these are basically test files, but in Maestro I think so they define a flow as a end-to-end test, an end-to-end journey, user journey of an app. You see, it's a think of flows as part of the user journey. So an end-to-end user journey could be a flow, right? Or simple login could be a flow, simple uh, you know user landing on an app, the home page, completing the onboarding could be a user journey. So that is, I think so, what they define flows. If you see the why section, built-in tolerance to flakiness, this is one of the most important, I think so, one of the most pertinent problem of end-to-end test automation. I would say that flakiness occurs, and even if you can say that we try to remove flakiness, I'm not very sure if you can remove 100% flakiness. Yeah, you can mitigate to a certain extent, I'm not arguing that when people who cannot do that, many people will do that and may have also done that, but it's very difficult to account for flakiness. You can know what is how flakiness can occur. You can try to mitigate it, but there are n number of ways where flakiness can occur, right? uh, Built-in tolerance to delays. You don't need to have those sleep calls. Maestro knows that it does take time to load the content, kind of automatically waiting. That I think so Playwright has already inbuilt in that, kind of the actionability checks that actually Playwright does. Blazingly fast iteration, tests are interpreted, do not need to compile anything. Powerful syntax, you define test in a YAML file, simple setup, binary file that works everywhere. So basically what they're trying to say that you can write simple easy test cases which take into account delays and tolerance for flakiness, right? And if you see the example that they have given is how they launch app on Twitter app on Android, and then try to sign in with something, and that is how the test actually happens. Simple example they have given for both iOS and Android, I think so. If you see, the commands are almost same: app id, this iOS, this platform support. They support both iOS and Android. They also support React Native and Flutter. Okay, so if there are other platforms like Ionic, what will happen? Not very sure. Blog post, GitHub repository. This is the repository where they actually have the Maestro test. Public Slack channel. I'm already a part of the Slack channel. Let me just open and show it to you. I think so here browser stack is there, but here mobile dev, I was already a part of this channel. You can ask any question that you want to ask in this channel, in the Maestro channel, I think so. And the wish list is for if you want to request some kind of product. In the experience that I have with the support is pretty good actually. I have had quite number of questions, and I think so their response has been pretty fast. I think so within a couple of hours somebody replies to the queries, even if it's not from the team, maybe somebody from the community, and that's the power of community. So but rather than having to talk much about Maestro, let me just start with how we are going to I think so pace our way through Maestro, and then let's deep dive into the starting. If you see installation, and you have the installation, the platform support examples, the CLI, I think so this is the main thing. Commands are one of the key things. Documentation is not that great, I would say. I've explored the documentation of I think so most of this, and I would say that I think so it's a fairly new tool. With the use that they will have over probably a period of time, they will get it will get good, but right now it's very, I would say, in a nascent stage. If you see the back command, right, it's like just a single line, right? So I mean, back is what back does, but even then could have had a simple example here, but it's okay. I think so they will get good, and they will get better as the time goes by, but this is how we will try to. So what I'm trying to think is, we will try to start with basic installation. Not even before basic installation, there are a couple of key things that we must do and we must know before we start to do mobile automation, and then we'll try to install Maestro, and then we'll try to run a couple of basic app, maybe some complex actions using the flows as well, right? So stay tuned for the next video. Thank you. Okay, so before I start with the prerequisites and the basic installation, uh, most of what I talk about, I will talk about in the future, and I'm currently talk about is already available at in my blog. So you could directly go to testdevs.com and go to the mobile section, mobile testing, and go to here. You'll see whatever I have done so far with Maestro is available here, and this is what I will be also talking about in my the what is Maestro installation, assertion, selector, and in future there will be much more added here. Over a period of time I will keep on adding here, right? So if you are a person like who likes to read, you can go ahead, and this is what I have also created. Now I've written it down. So let's say, first of all, the basic setup environment, because you need to know what is the setup environment where you're working with, and how you will set it up, what are the prerequisites. So first of all, you need a obviously you need a system. So right now you could either be on a Macintosh based machine, you could be on a Linux based machine, or you could be on a Windows machine, right? So right now the system that I'm using, it's a Mac machine. It's a Apple chip Mac machine. Recently purchased it in January. So it's an M3 machine, and the thing that you would want to know about the machines is that when you are trying to work with the shell, right, you are trying to run commands from your terminal or anything, you need to know which terminal you are actually doing. For example, a lot of people get confused with different terminals. So let me tell you, the default terminal in Mac OS now is the Z shell. It is ZSH. If you see here, ZSH, right? I think so this change starting, I think so, Mac OS Catalina. So if you do echo shell, it will do bin that sh, which is the Z shell. If you now there are, I think so, different flavors of shell versions, and I'm not very sure on how they are different. But if you want to change your shell version from here you could go to settings and you can see shell opens with bin slash z shell. And if you really want to change, right, so you could, I think so, security and privacy groups. Let me just say groups, user and groups. You would go to Rahul Yadav, 1 second, so change password now, I think so. Let me just see user and groups configuration, no, okay, automatically login, nope, no, I do not want to add user. Let me just see, can be done. There's a place, okay, let me just search it. Okay. Change the terminal in Mac, no, the terminal type in Mac. So if you go to Mac OS, oh, speaking of this Google has now enabled you to do predict, the search from a generative AI. So this is what I selected. So it already gives you terminals profile, no, terminal shell, default shell, terminal setting, command, bin shell, default terminal shell, bash. This is not bash. System setting, user and group, advanced options. Why I'm not able to see advanced options? Let me just see. Password. Okay. But basically, I'll just try to see what I think so. Touch ID turn off. There was an option here that you could go to advanced settings and then you could change the type of the terminal from Z shell to something. So if you want to change it, you can change it to echo, bin bash, you can T shell, whatever you want, you can do it, right? In Mac it gives you the freedom. Not, I think so, Linux also would give you this freedom. I'm not very sure about Windows. Have not worked a lot of Windows and I do not like Windows at all. So here echo shell gives you the basic shell, right? So you know that you are on a Mac system and your basic bin is, the shell is C shell. I'm telling you this because if you want to install Android or if you want to set the home a variable like Java home or Android home, so you will do in the particular profile file. For example, for bash I would think so it would be the bash underscore profile file. For Z shell it is, I think so, ZSHRC, or the, I think so, is something, some profile. So because many times what we do is we set the variables, Android variable in the bash profile for bin. I'm not very sure if that would get reflected or not, right? So that is, I think so, if you go into my blog also I have mentioned that this is one of the things that you need to know, that you are working on which shell, and then you need to set the variables as accordingly, right? Pre-setup stuff. Right, now let me open terminal. So I'll just write, okay, so before we get started, you will have a system. Now you need to have prerequisites. The prerequisites for this are very basic and very basic. So you need to have Android or Xcode. If you want to have Android, you would need to have the Android ecosystem, like the whole Android what you would say studio installed, right? You need to have the Java home set, right, because it utilizes Java, right? And if you want to have iOS, I think so you would go into have installed the Xcode platform, and along with the the command line tools for Xcode, right? So that is something which is basic prerequisites. Then you need to have I think so this is the basic thing. And if there is another thing which I think so is not prerequisite, but I would highly recommend is to have the Appium, what you would say, the Appium inspector, right? The Appium inspector, because when you want to work with apps, you want to have locators, you want to search for locator, I think so Appium inspector is the one thing that I would highly recommend to get the locators, right? So if you go into installation required, the first thing is to have the Android Studio installed. I already have Android Studio installed. Where is it? Yeah, where is it? Android Studio Hedgehog. So if you do not want to, if you, the first step one is to check what is the system you are on. It could be a Windows, it could be a Mac, it could be a Linux. And once you have done that, you could you will start with the software, right, installation. So the first thing is you install Android Studio, right? Once you have Android Studio, when you are once you are doing the Android Studio installation, and once it is completed, you will open this kind of the software once you have installed it. The second thing is to manage, to have the Android home dependency set, and this is where that installation comes into picture. I'll just open it. I'll just show you how, because I've already done it. So right, Android Studio. Once you have Android Studio, then open terminal, and you could do nano, then this ZSHRC, I think so, right? So here you open this nano file, right? UFO file, right? Copy the 4 lines. So what I am trying to do here is I'm trying to set the path of my Android home and the platform tools and the tools binary. So Android home is user Srijan key library Android SDK. If you see, this is the, I think so, the by default path where it gets installed, user and Srijan key, then it could be any name, right? It could be your name, whatever your system you have named your system. So you could be inside, then library. Where is the library folder? Okay, it is a hidden folder, so I could directly go to here, go to folder. You could directly go to users Srijanki, then library. You could directly open here, right? Then you have the Android right here, Android, then you have SDK. So this is the by default path, I think so, for Mac OS, where you should be keeping your Android SDK. But if you have installed at a custom location, you give the path of that custom location. The other 3 things, this is how you would write export Android home, is where the SDK library here is, and for the export path, right, for platform tools, you just append this value with the path of the platform tool. So if you see, I'll just open this, see, you see here, inside Android SDK there are the platform tools and everything, platform tools, platform build tools, blah blah blah. So these are inside the SDK, right? So the basic path you have to define, and then you can use it with this. And there are, you can see other things also, but this is how you can and to exit you could just do this, because I've not changed anything, right? I'll just exit it, right? But this is how you can add Android home to your Mac OS terminal, right? In the Mac OS terminal, I have so much of Chrome open that it becomes very difficult to put at this time. Now you will also need to have Xcode, because I think so Xcode is a dependent library for a lot of things. Many times it complains that Xcode is not running, so I would highly recommend you to do install Xcode, and you install the command line tools for Xcode. So how you could do it: install command line tools Mac, right? You could follow this tutorial, and first you install the Xcode. That is the thing. In Xcode you can directly install it via the applications. You go here, you directly write Xcode. Yeah, you have Xcode. Once that installed, it will take a good amount of time because it's a pretty heavy file. I think so 3.43 GB, right? So it's a pretty heavy file, so it will take some time to download, and once download you will have to install the Xcode. You will follow this. I will add this in the video link itself. I think it's a new window, right? Command line tools, install. This is nothing. This is the screenshot of how it will look like after it gets installed. Now in the meantime that Xcode is getting installed, you could do couple of things. So you could do installation of Maestro, but we'll keep it for later because we are currently in the prerequisite. So we can do two things. The first thing is we will create emulators, and the second thing is we installed the Appium inspector. So for Appium inspector you can just go to Google, install Appium inspector, and from here you can download the Appium inspector, right? I think so you could do here, go to releases, and I think so you get the file, the latest files from here, right? Whatever you want to install. I think so for Mac it would be the .dmg file, right? So install that based on your system. For Windows this is exe, for Linux the app image, universal mac.zip. I think so this will work on all the Macintosh based system, like whether it is Intel or M1 based. So I have downloaded, installed it. It is available on my system now. Appium inspector, if you open Appium inspector, it will ask you to provide connection to Appium. So even before you add the installation of Appium inspector, it's a good idea to install Appium on your system. Install Appium OS, install Appium. The best thing is to go through this location, follow the whatever installation of I think so you need to have these two installation. Install Appium, and then you have to install the UI automator driver, because mostly we will be doing tests on Android ecosystem, right? So follow these two tutorials to install Appium and the Appium UI automator driver as well, right? So once you are done with this, and I'll add these links as well in the description of this video. So you could do installation of this three things. Install Appium first install Appium, then install UI automator, and once you are done you install the Appium inspector. So once you have Appium inspector installed, right, you create a session, and I'll just show us how you could so I created a simple JSON file which I used to connect to a APK file. You provide the platform name, the automator name, because it's UI automator 2, so it should be just like this. The device name, I'll just show you how you create an emulator, and then you give that emulator name, and you give that absolute path of where this APK file is present, right? So it could be anywhere, right? So this is where you could be but you could, I think so, exclude this. It will directly create a connection to your device, but for the sake of simplicity, I just given the app path also. Not simplicity, I think so if you give this app path, it will directly open that app, right? Install that app. You don't need to install, otherwise you will have to explicitly install that app. Just close it for the while. So you have to install three things: Appium, UI automator driver, and Appium inspector. So once you are done, then open the Android Studio. So once you open Android Studio, from here these three dots, click virtual device manager, right? And this is from where you could create a new device. By default, when you install Maestro and you start the device of Maestro, it will download couple of one Android emulator for you, which is this one, Pixel 6 API 30. And I think so this is also mentioned in the documentation that once you start a Maestro test, by default it will pick out this, but it is not restricted to this. You could like, this is a by default, but if you want to run on different devices, you could definitely choose your device, right? That's why I have created this sample emulator. It's very easy to create a sample emulator. Here you want to have a small, medium, or kind of Pixel Pro, which are big phone. You can see the screen size is bigger, right? Go to next. let's say Pixel 7 Pro. Next, right? Next, whatever name you want to give, you want to have the startup orientation, which means when it starts you want to it started in portrait mode or landscape mode. I want to have in portrait mode. Anything else do you want to change? No. So once you finish this will be a new device which is created. Let me just finish this Maestro test device. Yeah, it's there, right? And if you put it load launching emulator, it will launch this emulator. I think so it has the latest API, which is I think so 34. Yeah, you see it's booted up, right? It's booting up, right? In the time that it boots up, yeah, it's booted up, right? Powered by Android. So in the time it is booting up, we'll go and see another thing which I think so is pretty useful, which is I think so AVD, ADB, not AVDB, ADB, right? Android debug bridge, right? To go to Android debug bridge, I think so you need to go to the platform tools. So as you see, platform tools resides under, see, platform tools reside under, go to folders, library, go to folders, Android SDK, inside platform tools is ADB. Let's see, this is ADB, I think so ADB. So if you want to run here, you need to do ADB devices, such file directory ADB, okay. So cdu users Sri Janki library k Peri city Android SDK platform tools, here ADB devices. Yeah, see here, from here you could do ADB devices. You will have to go here. I'm not very sure if there is a I think so easier way. There could be an easier way of directly starting ADB from your command line, but this is how I did. So the ADB devices, if you want to see, since this emulator is connected, so it will give me emulator this. If I connect a device on my system, right, it will show me that device also, and I will show you just in maybe some future videos where how that looks like. So right now this is here, I'll just exit this here and I'll just boot it down, also shutting it down, right? So as you can see, there are a couple of prerequisites that you need to have. First, you need to have the Android installation, set up the Android, download Android Studio, set up your Android, download the requisite dependencies. Then second thing is you download Xcode. Third, you download the Appium UI automator driver. Then you download the, what you would say, Appium inspector. And the fourth thing you could do is start up your AVD devices. I'll just here delete. If you want to delete it, you can also do delete, saving data, right, done, gone, right? So in the next video, what I'll do is I'll just walk you through the installation of Maestro, how Maestro looks like, and what are the capabilities and how we can directly use it, right? Thank you, bye bye.